to the Power of One. Today, I will be speaking with Shameka Sawyer, a sister who lost her brother to gun violence. He was shot 3 times, close to where he lived with his mother, and once in the head, and he was pronounced dead on the scene. Gun violence in the city of Philadelphia is taking so many of our loved ones. Shameka created a documentary to keep her brother's memory alive. Welcome to the show, Shameka. Shameka, thank you so much for joining me. I know this is going to be a very difficult conversation. Walk me through June 1st, 2020.
Okay, so the incident actually happened on May 30th. So that night, Sunday night on May 30th, my brother went to the store with a friend. And I want to say maybe a couple hours later, my mother was getting worried. So the friend he went to the store with came banging on her door saying that, his nickname was Tanch. So she said, Tanch, he just got shot in the head. He's got shot in the head. You need to come to the hospital. So I wasn't there. My mother called me. I went and picked her up and we went to the hospital. So he was announced dead on arrival at, I want to say 12:03 a.m., which made it June 1st. That was the situation. The friend really couldn't ID who the person was because at that time it was during the pandemic, and everyone, of course, now we're still wearing masks. Everyone's wearing a mask. So there was little information to go on as to who did this and where these people are located. We have no idea.
So the person that your brother was with, were they just going to the store and someone just came up and started shooting? Did someone shoot in the area? Did you get the story?
We've gotten several stories. The person he was with said that a guy ran up on them out of nowhere, and my brother saw this person running up towards them, so he told her to hide, and he was trying to hide, but the person shot him in the leg. And then she said she saw the person stand over him with a gun and then shoot him in the head. Yeah, so I really don't know what the motive was, or what. I have no idea because I wasn't there, and when a person is in that type of traumatic event, sometimes your memory is not 100%. So she did her best to tell us what she could remember, but of course it was hard for her. So yeah, we were left with little to no answers about what really happened and why did this happen.
Where did it happen at? Was there any surveillance, any video footage?
So it happened on Musgrave Street, Duval and Musgrave. Now, in that area, there aren't any like red light cameras or anything like that. Is so Duval is like across street on Musgrave. So there's no active cameras out there that I know about. So the only cameras that probably would have been available would be like if someone had a Ring camera on their house. But to this date, like no one has stepped forward with any video or anything.
Okay. So, Shameka, you did a documentary on your brother, which I thought was amazing. You did a great job. In your documentary, you spoke about noticing a change with your brother as far as like his social media activity, as far as him losing weight. Do you look at that as being a sign that, oh my goodness, I probably missed something that was going on with my brother that we could have been able to intervene? Tell me about your thoughts with that now after the incident.
Yeah, I definitely look back on a lot of things now, but especially with him losing weight and becoming a little bit less social. Um, my brother, he was always like, he had a bigger than life personality, very caring person. But I noticed, like, prior to what happened to him, that he became a little bit more sheltered. Like, he wasn't as boisterous. And yeah, I did notice that he was starting to lose weight. I did ask him about that. I just said, I think you need to eat more. It looks like you're losing a lot of weight. And he was like, yeah, sis, I know. I want to take care of myself. I want to. But I don't know. It's just like, I feel like I should have pressed a little bit more. Um, I was always the one that was like, if he wants to talk about it or tell me anything, he'll just tell me. We had that type of relationship that if anything was going on or if we needed help, we knew that we can look for each other for help. But I'm a mom. I have my own things going on, so I was really wrapped up in my life, and I didn't think much of it. I just thought like, well, if something was really bad happening, he would tell me. And I know that, he's a strong person, so he'll pull it together. He'll get it together. Now I'm like, no, I should have really just pressed him and tried to figure out if something was wrong, if he felt like he was in any type of danger or anything. Because, like I mentioned in the documentary, he just changed as it got closer to his murder. He was just more quiet, a little distant. So yeah, I don't know if that was because, maybe he felt like he was in some type of situation or not. I have no idea, and I feel bad that I didn't press him and ask about it.
Now, so we're in this COVID pandemic, and your brother was murdered. Was you and your mother able to go to Einstein to see him?
Yes. So it was a couple of us, a couple more of his family members met us at Einstein. The only people who were allowed in were my mother and his father. So the rest of us were waiting outside to hear, what the verdict was, like what type of condition he was in. Because it's weird, even though you hear like, oh my gosh, she was shot in the head. I don't know, you kind of still hold on to this glimmer of hope. Like, there have been others who went through this and survived. So you just hope that you won't hear that he's no longer here. But unfortunately, we were told by the hospital staff, well, my mom and his father was told by the hospital staff that he didn't make it. They were not able to see him at all. So the last time my mom saw my brother is when he told her he was going to the store. And after that, she didn't see him again until the funeral.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking and mind-boggling for me just to think of someone who could shoot someone in the head. Shooting someone is just,
right.
It's just like, oh my goodness. But to shoot someone in the head, it's just mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. It just seems like there's no regard for human life.
Right.
And people are not thinking about this victim and me killing this victim and me murdering this victim. I have now changed his mother's way of living. I have now changed his sister's way. I've now changed all of his family members and friends' way of living because your life will never be the same.
Right.
So tell me how it is day by day for you and your mom.
Uh, it's tough. Um, I mean, you just never get over it. You just learn how to cope with it. My brother had 3 kids. Well, he has 3 kids, and 2 boys and a girl. And his daughter was pregnant when he was murdered, so he never got the chance to see his grandchild. And it's difficult because this is I knew him all his life. Like, he's my little brother, and I feel like as a big sister, it's my job to protect him. And I kind of feel like I dropped the ball. And even though it's not my fault, it's still hard to come to grips with the fact that I wasn't there to protect him. And it's even though I know it's like it's no way you could have known this was going to happen. You didn't know anything that was happening in his life and where someone would try to hurt him. But still, I feel like I'm his big sister, and at the end of the day, I'm his protector. Outside of his parents is me. That part hurts a lot. Um, yeah, it hurts a lot because I've been his protector all through his life, and then to get to this point, and I kind of feel like I let my life, the work that I do, pull me away from being more there for him. Being a mom and having all these other things going on. I got so wrapped up into that this situation or anything that he was going through kind of slipped through my fingers. So it's taken a lot just to come to grips with the fact that this happened, and there was absolutely nothing I can do about it because it's done. There's nothing I can really do about it now but to share his story and to share, my family's story, how we feel without him here, in the hopes that someone sees this and thinks twice before taking someone's life. I'm not going to say that my little documentary is going to change anyone's thoughts, but it's just my hope that people think before they murder someone, because you're not only murdering this person, the victim, the family suffers as well.
Exactly. Now, what made you do the documentary?
For me, it was a form of therapy. Um, Prior to this, I want to say probably summer 2019, I had talked to my brother about doing a documentary about him because he was a rapper. He liked to make music, and he started his own clothing line. So we were recording, some videos for his short documentary because he wanted to talk about his life and wanted to inspire like other young boys not to get involved in what quote unquote street life, but try to think of a better path. So I thought it would be cool just to, put that together for him. Unfortunately, he was murdered, so we never got to finish what we were working on. So I just decided, number one, his life meant something and it still means something. Number two, I didn't want his death to be forgotten because his life mattered. Number three, it made me feel closer to him, even though it was probably one of the most difficult things I could have ever done. But in the midst of it, I got a chance to have a conversation with him that I wasn't able to have when he was here because I just kept pushing it off because I thought we had forever. you know I definitely didn't think that our relationship or connection would end as soon as it did. You know, I'm the older one, so I thought he'll be the last one standing. You know, but yeah, and also too, I felt like too many times once the media stops the coverage, it's like we all disappear. Like, you know, oh, somebody was murdered, okay, and that's that. But no, we don't disappear. We're still here, and we're still trying to cope with what happened. And I feel like this, my short documentary is like saying to others who experience this, who are experiencing this, that you're not alone. Like, I understand how you feel. I feel it too. And that even though a person is gone, we don't have to pretend like they never existed. So this is my way to keep him alive, to share him with the world.
Very, very powerful. Now, you said something a little while ago about him wanting to mentor
Hmm.
young people, and so they would not go in a certain direction. Was your brother, did he make some decisions that led him in the streets, and that's why he wanted to mentor other young people?
Yes, he did. I'm going to be honest. He wasn't perfect. Um, you know, he dealt with a lot, um, and I think a lot of young African American men in this country alone deals with a lot. And you know, he had times where he got in trouble. He had times where he did things he shouldn't have done, just like all of us. Um, but I think for him, as he got older, he started to understand how impressionable young men are, because he was once a young man as well. Actually, he was still young, but you know, younger. And he understood like how young men could be easily influenced, and he wanted to basically try to change and break that cycle of this glamorized lifestyle of people who don't, you know, go to school and, you know, just hang out all day. He wanted to change that narrative, because he felt like it was a lie. You know, there are people who will pretend like life is great when they're out, you know, just hanging out in the street and not doing much. But for him, he always wanted to show other young boys that they have more potential, that they can do better things than just hanging out. They can apply themselves to school, or they can decide to learn a trade or get a job. So those are the things that he wanted to instill in young men, especially because a lot of young African American men, unfortunately, don't have that type of figure in their life, based on the areas, you know, where he used to hang around. You know, father figures weren't as prevalent, and young men were always looking for some type of guidance. And he didn't want to be the person that leads them down a path that was destructive. He really wanted to see them do well and do better.
Was he murdered close to your mother's house?
Yes, he was murdered, I want to say, a half a block away, not even a full block away from where he lived with my mother. And you know, it's crazy because my mother at the time, now she's still there. She's looking to move, but I cannot even drive down that block. Like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'll take scenic routes. I'll go all around the opposite way just so I don't have to drive down that block, because the day after well, no, it's the same day of his murder. It's just later in the day. I wanted to see where he was when he was murdered. And when I got there, um, his blood was still in the street. There were pieces of his brain on in the street.
Still on the street?
Yep. So for me, it was just too traumatizing to even go down this block. So I don't even go down there, and I'm, really working with my mom so she can move, because I know for her it's even more difficult because she is still in the same place where he was with her. And so all of the memories, all of his stuff is still there. It's just, it's kind of hard to just pack up his stuff and, put it in storage somewhere, because it kind of feels like you're packing him away, if that makes sense.
It
So
does.
she just left everything the way he left it until she moves, and then she wants to pack up everything. But for her, it's really hard because outside of losing my youngest brother, my oldest brother passed away in 2011 from cancer. So not only did she lose, one son, she lost both her sons. And as much as she would tell me, I never wanted you to be an only child,
Yeah.
I ended up that way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now tell me how the funeral was, because again, we're in this COVID-19 pandemic. Was it able to be the homegoing that your mother wanted? Was attendance very limited, or did you guys do something unique? Tell me about the funeral.
Yeah, so no, I don't think it was what she wanted, but it's what we had to do because of COVID and the restrictions placed on businesses. So the only people allowed inside the funeral were immediate family. So in order for us to let other family members and friends be a part of the funeral, is I had to put it on Zoom, which a lot of people are doing now. So, those who couldn't be there in person could still feel like they were a part of the ceremony, and they can, you know, pay their respects that way. But it was really small. He did have a lot of friends and family come out to view his body, but of course, no one can stay. You can just come in, view him, and then leave. But I think, number one, I think if we weren't in this pandemic, I don't think this would have happened. Um, Number two, it's just, just trying to put on a funeral during a pandemic while you're trying to grieve. But you still have to be isolated from, other people that would normally be by your side. It was difficult. It was very difficult.
Now, will you do something else with the documentary? What else will you do to keep your brother's memory alive?
Well, I think what I would like to do is either one of two things: either expand this short documentary into a full length one, or create a series where I talk to other families who experience this and share their stories as well. Because I just feel like we don't get enough attention. I'll just say it. We don't, it's, if it's not something that's personally affecting someone, they don't feel it as much. It's like, especially in Philadelphia with so much gun violence,
Yes.
it comes a point where people start to feel, I don't know, numb to what's happening, because you hear it so much and you see it so much, and it's just like, wow, it's just another one. And for us who are going through this and experiencing this, it's like, no, it's not just another one. this person meant something. This person, you know, was a huge part of my life. This person is not just a number. This person had a life, had
Right.
family, you know. So I think more emphasis should be put on, um, you know, where are these families now? Where are they now in the search for who murdered their loved one? You know, that's a whole nother story in itself
Right.
about figuring out, you know, who did this. How does it feel if no one has been court? How do these families feel about that? So yeah, I'm thinking, trying to figure out which way I should go.
Okay. Well, if I can do anything to help, please let me know. And I am so sorry for your loss, for your mother's loss. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today. And God bless.
Thank you, Melanie. I really appreciate it. God bless you too.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. My heart goes out to all of the family members who have lost a loved one to gun violence. 2020 was a record breaking year for the city of Philadelphia. It is my hope and my prayer that 2021, the gun violence in the city of Philadelphia will cease. Peace and blessing.
Like, I was just so proud of you. I've always been proud of you, you know. Then we went on, and years later, you picked music up back again, and we started, you know, shooting videos. And
older, your mom need money. So you stick and move, never lose when you comfy. Think about me slipping, you be swimming with the guppies. Trust me,